Okay, we are rolling. Champions of Champions boxing talk here. You know, the day after the Gennady Golovkin Canelo Alvarez rematch. And Canelo Alvarez got the fight on the scorecards. One judge had it even, the other two had it, I think, 7 rounds to 5. Now, how did I personally score the fight? First of all, before I tell you, this was an ultra monster close fight, right? The judge that gave the fight even, I don't blame you. The judge that gave it to Canelo by a round or two, the two judges I should say, I don't blame you. In fights like this, I really don't think we can destroy judges and torture judges, right? The first fight, yes, that was absolutely terrible. Even the 7-5 to Golovkin was generous to Canelo. For me, that was a clear 8-4. Okay, Canelo had his moments, but he didn't eke out a draw, in my opinion. Last night, though, there were rounds that I gave Golovkin, which, when the two men were walking back to their corners, I was thinking, my God, somebody else could easily give that Canelo. And that's what happened, I think, with the two other judges. And also, even if you do feel there's a bit of a robbery going on here, did I not say Gennady Golovkin knows what he's in for now when he goes to Vegas? The whole Triple G team know this. It's a big money fight, right? But you can't have it both ways. Canelo really is not the first guy that has got preferential treatment in Las Vegas as an A-side star. He won't be the last, right? Not that I'm saying he got preferential treatment last night, but in a close fight like that where you create no daylight whatsoever between you and your opponent, they're going to give it the A-side. Now, people say you've got to take it from the champion, but the champion today, let's face it, is the A-side, is the money. That's the true champion in boxing. Forget belts get you to a certain level, but once you make it to the elite level, then the money man is the champion. And Canelo is the money, right? But, as I say, it was ultra competitive and close. Much, much more than the first fight. By miles. By miles, right? As I say, Manny Pacquiao is supposedly fighting Floyd Mayweather next. He will have to concede that he would have to do something really well to beat Floyd. Because again, Manny said, I've got the belt, I've got the belt. Yes, that matters when you're the A-side and the champion. But Floyd is the A-side. So the belt is just a part of the show, part of the promotion. But the champion is the A guy, and that is boxing for you. If you really, really want to put exclamation marks on this, you've got to do what Lennox Lewis did to Mike Tyson. He gave the judges no possibility at all of scoring it against him. He walloped Mike Tyson and then knocked him out. Now, Canelo Alvarez, I predicted Golovkin would win by knockout because I thought Canelo would do much of what he did last night, but then back off into the corner again, leave himself on the rope exposed, and then inevitably Golovkin would get through with something major. Be honest with yourself, did Canelo's back touch the ropes more than once all fight? I predicted Golovkin would win, but I also said how Canelo could win. And you know something? Canelo did exactly that. He was on the front foot, at least in the pocket, all night long. All night long. The guy going backwards in the first fight was Canelo Alvarez. Last night, it was Gennady Golovkin. What did I say about a small guy getting close? The big guy has to create some leverage to get extensions on his punches, right? What does that look like when the big guy has to do that? It looks like he's backing up because he needs to find the room. It's a great tactic. Joe Frazier used it. Canelo Alvarez used it last night. And he looked a much better Canelo for it. Now, Golovkin, you don't have to cut the ring off to find him. So the challenges for Canelo against those guys are still there. Even if he is going to be front foot heavy from now on, against a Golovkin, yeah, he's going to be there in front of you. Against a Liam Smith, yeah, he's going to be there in front of you. Against a potential fight with David Lemieux in December, yes, he's there in front of you. But it's those guys that move. Canelo attacked better last night than I've ever seen him do before. But it was against a guy that's there to be attacked. As good as Golovkin is as a boxer, as a fighter, etc., he was there to be attacked. But it takes courage, right? Okay, Golovkin, you don't need to cut no ring off on him. But it takes mighty courage to stand there in the pocket, to fight toe-to-toe, and have the gall to stick to a game plan where you're backing a man up like that all night long. To stick to it. And I said in my video, Canelo has to stick to this like glue. And he did it. Sometimes, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but you look at some of these fights when fighters do make adjustments, and you wonder, do they listen to these analysis things online from, you know, guys like me and you that make videos? Because Canelo, he did exactly what I said he needed to do to win. Maybe it was still not enough, but still, as I said, it could have gone either way. Triple G, we said he needed more body shots. Where were the body shots? They were non-existent. Why? Because as I said, Canelo was too close. He wasn't giving up enough space for Golovkin to sort of eke a shot down there, right? They say fighters don't really change, but the real good ones or great ones do. Canelo is young enough at 28 to make the adjustment. Had Canelo been 36, maybe he'd have just been set. Maybe he would have got used to just backing up. But he's young enough for the penny to drop. Against David Lemieux, I would still stick with this tactic. Because the hand speed and the countering is all above David Lemieux's level. Yes, David Lemieux does not need the space that Golovkin needs to get his hooks and power shots in there. But Canelo is a Mexican, and I think Mexicans appreciated this performance from him last night than any before. To me, it was the best I've ever seen Canelo, to be honest with you. Because you have to measure it by your opposition. Alright, he knocked Kirkland out spectacularly. But James Kirkland is no Gennady Golovkin. Canelo Alvarez, when Floyd Mayweather was boxing his head off, sort of made no attempt to really sort of get the bit between his teeth, Marcus Maidana style, and go for the jugular against Mayweather. He's shown tonight he's changed that. Now he has intention, if he feels things could go against him, where he will attack. Canelo Alvarez is coming towards his peak. He looked to me like he's peaking, right? Just 28 years of age. You know, it is the prime of a boxer's career, or many boxers' career. What leaves the sour taste in people's mouths is the fact that Golovkin could have got the decision last night, but he definitely should have got the decision last time. And this stuff with the performance-enhancing drugs. And the amount of time this fight took to happen, right? First of all, if Canelo was on performance-enhancing drugs, and I had suspicions that he was, let's make no bones about it, and I'm not going to change anything I said about all of that stuff because it was controversial and out of order from their team. But if there is an example of what a clean athlete can do, that was it last night. Why, oh why, these people think they need these things? Watch that fight, and you will know. Canelo had more stamina than I've seen him in years. Maybe ever. Right? Harold Lederman's scorecard was 8-4 on HBO. I disagree with Harold that night. I totally disagree. To me, this fight, you could easily say it's slightly 2-0 to Golovkin, or it's 1-1. Does it warrant a third fight? Yes, you could have a third fight. Do I think Golovkin would have made clear daylight between him and Canelo a couple of years ago? Yes. I mean, if a 36-year-old is taking a pound-for-pound 28-year-old in his prime to just a round shading victory, what would a younger Golovkin have done? He'd have had enough to get over the line, in my opinion, clearly years ago. But at 36, to still be competitive with elite fighters, just imagine years ago. That's all you've got to do. Now, granted, Canelo may even get better from here. But I think it's not unfair to say that Gennady Golovkin has seen better days. Still an extremely difficult fighter to beat. But to me, he was the one that looked tired. He was the one that sort of did look more bruised up. He looked easier to hit, and he made Canelo look so fast. So fast. It's unreal. Canelo looked slow against Lara and Floyd Mayweather and people of that nature. Against Golovkin, Canelo looked like a whippet. Now, I know the reason could be because he's a middleweight. And the bigger the man, the slower the man, a lot of the time. That is sometimes what gives a slightly smaller guy an advantage. We've seen it with another guy, didn't we, over a generation. So, Canelo is benefiting a little from that. But I wouldn't consider many more contests if I was Gennady Golovkin, because the chin is granite, but one day that will crack. You know, the punch resistance goes. The ability to take punishment goes. What then are you left with? This guy has had hundreds and hundreds of amateur fights. Is it all catching up with him? I have to say Canelo Alvarez has a heck of a chin. Golovkin did land some cleaner right hands and a tremendous uppercut in that fight last night. And I did think Canelo was buzzed, but never absolutely stunned. And a lot of Golovkin's opponents have been flat on their backs after shots like that. So Golovkin needs to... Canelo said he'd fight him again. Golovkin needs to try and equal the score. Maybe a farewell in Kazakhstan, and then it's time to call it a day, because he is looking... With every subsequent performance he fights a top guy, he's looking less of himself. Again, against a B-level fighter, he can look like Gennady Golovkin of his old. But when you step up, either things are equalled out or you start to look your age. But as I said, I've no problems with Canelo Alvarez getting the fight. Team Triple G again, Abel Sanchez, all of those guys had no complaints with the decision. You've got to separate that guy from his senses. Let's face it, let's be honest, it's not just Las Vegas. We go on about Las Vegas. Try having a fight that close here in the UK against Anthony Joshua. You are not going to win. You're not going to win. You have to dominate Anthony Joshua or knock him out to beat him in the UK. I would say it's just as bad at least. Right? But those judges last night, cut them some slack if you scored it from Triple G, because I scored it Triple G, but it was no Bradley Pacquiao where Golovkin absolutely, had a clear daylight, like the first fight. I stress, the first fight is a real tragedy for boxing. Unfortunately, it's always going to be brought up now. Even fans, I said in my video that if Canelo Alvarez fought the way he did last night, things can evaporate and his image start to recover. Well, fans are still talking about that first fight, because this is what they expect. Do you remember the first Evander Holyfield-Lennox Lewis fight? Lennox Lewis won that first fight, in my eyes, by 9 rounds to 3. Evander Holyfield was lost all night, and then they called it a draw. Evander Holyfield, though, in the second fight, did what Canelo Alvarez did last night. It was a much closer fight, Lewis-Holyfield 2, than the first one. I thought Lennox did more than Golovkin did. I thought there was more variation in what Lennox was doing. As I said, Golovkin sort of did a lot of the same things he did in the first fight, but slightly worse, because Canelo was backing him up and putting him under the microscope and into the fire. And this shows that if you are willing in life and in boxing to make adjustments, great things can happen. Last night's announcement that, to many people, it's a believe it when I see it sort of thing. Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. Right away, my mind is with Floyd on that fight, because I seen the first fight. But if there is any encouragement for Manny Pacquiao in the rematch against Floyd Mayweather, he saw it last night, Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez completely did things different to the first fight. In other words, he knew the smaller guy backing up gives the bigger guy with range huge potential for advantages. Wasn't that much of Manny's problem in the first Floyd fight. Now, I know Floyd's a completely different fighter to Golovkin, but when it was sort of at range, Manny was always on the end of Floyd's hands, jab, right? If Manny Pacquiao thought I could never adjust to beat this guy, he needs to just look at last night's tape, and it is inspirational how Canelo shows, yes, people see a certain fighter as a certain style, but they can change. And when they do make the change, it can shock the other guy and take parts of their game away. So that is Manny Pacquiao's hope if he fights Floyd Mayweather again. And just like Gennady Golovkin, Golovkin looked his age. There's a chance Floyd could look his age. Gennady Golovkin looking his age suited a younger man, Canelo Alvarez. Floyd Mayweather, maybe looking his age, may suit an active boxer like Pacquiao. Was it a better fight, Golovkin-Canelo 2, than the first one? Yes, because of Canelo's tactics. But I must say, I was shocked at Golovkin going backwards, and I was shocked that Golovkin really didn't make any adjustments. And as I said, even though Canelo really negated his chances to go to the body, Golovkin never really attempted much. And in the fight itself, Golovkin was not the body puncher. It was Canelo. So, No complaints on last night's fight. Yes, there will always be a stigma attached to that first one. This belt stuff gets you to a certain level, but then at the end of the day, the A-side and the money man is the champion. And they will get close rounds. If there is any doubt, there is no doubt, it will go to the A-side. You've got to beat the man. And the man, and also Canelo was the lineal middleweight champion, I think. So, in a way, he is like the man. Tyson Fury going to the United States against Deontay Wilder is going to have to whoop him, big style, to win, or separate him from his senses. And Tyson Fury must look in the mirror and tell himself, this is a fact. And if it's a close fight, I know what I've got myself in for if it goes against me. In Germany, Tyson Fury didn't make it close at all. So the judges had no alternative but to score it for him. Lennox Lewis Evander Holyfield was a travesty. That did look like not judges that are making interpretations of fights. It looked like judges that were corrupt about scoring fights. But as I say, last night was not one of them. Last night was not one of them. So the best version of Canelo I've seen so far. Is there more to come? That was actually a punishing fight for Canelo, though. He did take some punishment. We don't always see Canelo take much punishment. Does he want Golovkin again? Well, look at the money, look at the numbers. A third fight is going. There's going to be sort of less animosity as well with the third fight, because these two guys seem to have respect for each other again, right? So the third fight, because we got an sort of anticlimactic first, a good second, people will anticipate that the third will be the best of them all. So there is enough left in this. But as Michael Montero said, and I'll give him credit, that the fans are getting tired. It's sort of a saga now that, yes, maybe one last contest, and let's move on. And maybe let's move on anyway. And as for those talking about Gennady Golovkin, haha, you lost to a guy who stepped up in weight, think about it. Marvin Hagler got beat by Sugar Ray Leonard. The great Marvin Hagler, you know, the middleweight guy that is meant to run through trains and beat anything in front of him and crush it, right? This guy lost to a guy 2 divisions smaller than him in Sugar Ray Leonard. Sometimes a small guy is special, right? It does not mean that the big guy is not special. He just got beat by Sugar Ray Leonard, a damn good fighter. Gennady Golovkin in years to come, when people talk about that loss to Canelo, people will say, yeah, but it was against Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is a pound-for-pound fighter. He is a great fighter. Last night, I'd never seen it truly what he was capable of before. I saw it last night, and he was stood on the podium next to Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins. Before last night, my opinion was this Canelo is not quite in their league, in their primes. I'm starting to have to reassess that now. Canelo Alvarez last night looked like a potential. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, I've no doubt about that. But he looked a potentially all-time great. Even at that decision gone against him, which I scored against him, it still was impressive to me. Because, for instance, if you fight Roberto Duran, and you give in his prime, and you give Roberto Duran an absolute war, but he nicks the fight, you might still be an all-time great. Because Duran's level is so high that if you can challenge it, that puts you high. Gennady Golovkin is a middleweight, for all his critics, 20 consecutive defences. I mean, this guy was sort of this era's Marvin Hagler. And for Canelo to be scraping up there with him at middleweight, well, it's food for thought on where you judge where Canelo Alvarez should be ranked in history. But anyway, that's me. I hope you guys enjoyed the fight. I enjoyed the fight. I was so delighted to see Roman Gonzalez come back. David Lemieux was devastating, wasn't he, against what's he called? Spike O'Sullivan. And the other Mexican guy is just devastating. That guy, in a few years, we have to put him in there with Canelo. Here's the thing that's interesting for me, though. People say he fights like a Mexican Golovkin a little bit. He's quicker, though. You know, his speed in a few years, if he can maintain it, may give Canelo, if Canelo fights in the pocket like that, some food to think about. And who wouldn't want to see that guy v. Gerard Hurd? That would be an absolute classic. If Hurd could step up to middleweight, who wouldn't want to see Canelo v. Hurd? Who would not want to? I think it'd be I think it's a brilliant fight in December if they can make it David Lemieux v. Canelo, because David Lemieux does throw shorter punches than Golovkin. Maybe he can sneak one in. Canelo's chin proved it could take Golovkin's power. Could Golovkin have taken a little bit of edge off Canelo? You never know. I would favour Canelo at this point. He just has more variation. But I'd love to see him fight that sort of fight again against David Lemieux. It would bring the Mexicans off their feet again, and the boxing fans worldwide. So congratulations, Canelo. I don't take back what I've said in the past because it is still the truth. Just because last night was a tremendous performance and blah blah doesn't change the fact. But it can be the beginning of how we see him from now on, right? Gennady Golovkin has nothing to be ashamed of. If he did lose tonight, which the judges interpreted that he did, and it was close, he lost to a future Hall of Famer. Golovkin's going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, they both look like Hall of Famers. But from the Golovkin we used to know, he's fading. But he's still a tremendous fighter that could beat a lot of guys out there. Who would not want to see Golovkin Billy Joe Saunders? See, all these fights now, because Canelo showed, that he can change styles and whatnot, from 2 fights with Golovkin, it makes, such great intrigue of putting Canelo in with these different style guys. Who wouldn't want to see Canelo Danny Jacobs? Who wouldn't want to see if that guy, the Mexican kid, could go up in weight v. Golovkin? Who would not want to see Billy Joe Saunders Golovkin? It's all there because Golovkin is still stood on the same page with Canelo because there was only a fraction of a hairline between the two last night. But all that's for another video. And I've been rabbiting on, and this is Champions of Champions Boxing Talk, and I'm out.